Shalom, guys, out there.
Shalom.
Hopefully, luck. Without any further ado, we got another lesson here lined up. Just try to go into the tribes, the characteristics of all the 12 tribes. So two prominent chapters for that would be Genesis 49, Deuteronomy 28, and also Deuteronomy 33. The first one is Judah, so I'm going to get Genesis 49, we can get Deuteronomy 33. So it starts with Judah here. It starts out with Judah here. Actually, Reuben here. Genesis 49 and verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. So these are, as you see, these are going to be some blessings that have already came to pass. And we're in the last days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel, your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, in the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Reuben, if you can get how Reuben was named.
Yeah, that's Genesis 28.
Their brother's gonna get when Reuben was born, because it says Reuben's the firstborn, and it says that's why he was the sign of your firstborn son would be the sign, really the sign of your strength. Like me personally, with my older brother, he has characteristics that's stronger than me. You go back to Isaac. Edom was the firstborn. He was really, as far as in the flesh at least, he was the sign of his father's strength. That's why Isaac wanted to try to bless Esau and not Jacob.
Yeah, you remember Esau was the favorite son, okay, because of the venison that he cooked. And Isaac was actually going to give the blessing to Esau. However, the Lord saw to it to fulfill prophecy that Esau was going to get supplanted. Which that whole story about Esau going out to get venison and coming back with nothing and selling his birthright, that was all set up by the Lord at the end of the day. I have that verse right here. This is Genesis chapter 29, verse 32. And it says, And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, Surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction, now therefore my husband will love me. And that goes into the name of Reuben, okay? The firstborn son of Jacob. Which Lord, go ahead.
In the Hebrew, it's Ra-Aban, which means, see, it's a son.
Correct.
Which could confuse you with Simeon. I believe Simeon means afflicted and heard. She said right there, she was afflicted, I think she said.
Yeah. She said, The Lord shall look upon my affliction. For surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love me. Because remember, Leah was not loved by Jacob. Jacob didn't even want Leah. Laban supplanted Jacob, right? And he tricked him into sleeping with his other daughter first. And even back then in the ancient world, they understood something about the act of consummating a marriage. Okay, when you popped the woman, that was your. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter. Like you whether you wanted her or not, that's your wife now. Okay, and Jacob honored that tradition, but he really wanted Rachel. Okay, and that showed in the relationship that they had between all three of them that Jacob favored Rachel. Okay, and the Lord decided to give Leah more children, just to kind of like balance things out, you know, because a woman that brings you sons, especially sons, right? A woman that brings you sons is a very valuable asset to your bloodline, your lineage, because that's an extension of yourself. You're producing and you're forwarding your own bloodline. And that's really what you want. You want sons, right? And Leah was producing son after son after son. Okay.
Was that the 29th chapter?
That, yeah. Genesis 29 and 32.
Did you get 31?
31. It says, and when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, like I just said, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren.
So that's why she called him. See, it's a son, because she was happy about having a son. And that name is confusing with. Can get confused with Simeon, because Simeon also means, really, Simeon means afflicted and hurt. She was afflicted there, but yeah, you just read it. And it says, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength. Going into how strong Reuben was. Reuben was the Seminole Indians.
Actually, I was about to pull something up on that, because it actually says the same thing in Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33, just start at 5, and it says, and he was king in Jeshurun, when the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together. And it's verse 6 says, let Reuben live and not die, let not his men be few. And this is the blessing of Judah. So that goes into the blessing of Judah. So Reuben says, let Reuben live and not die, let not his men be few. And then I actually did this last week, where I looked up the Seminole Indians, and the AI overview says Seminole Indians are a Native American tribe with a rich history and culture, primarily based in Florida and Oklahoma. So that if you imagine the area of the United States where Reuben is primarily, it's the southeast. That Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, that's where the Seminole Indians are primarily located. Okay. And it says the history is the Seminole people emerged in Florida in the early 1700s, which we know is way before that, composed of various Native American groups, mostly notably the Northern Muskie Creeks and from Georgia and Alabama, among the remnants of Florida indigenous peoples. And it says something right here where it says where they were actually the only tribes to actually fight off the American invaders.
That's why it says right here, my firstborn, my might, in the beginning of my strength.
Yep.
The fact it read in Deuteronomy, was it very short there?
Deuteronomy 33 and 6 says, let Reuben live and not die, and let not his men be few. Okay.
Why was his men few? Because they were very strong.
Strong warriors. That's why a lot of mascots. There's a huge college down in Florida, okay, called Florida State University, and their mascot is a Seminole Indian. That's that college where if you watch college football, the Seminole Indian rides out on a horse and he implants his spear into the ground. Okay, that's a major college football team, and their mascot is a Seminole Indian. But I got it right here. It says, despite they faced conflict with European colonists in the United States government through the 19th century, particularly during the Seminole Wars, which involved attempts to force them off their lands and relocate them to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. Despite these efforts, a group of Seminoles successfully resisted removal and remained in the Florida Everglades, earning the name the Unconquered People. So that's matches perfectly with the prophecies about Reuben being strong, being mighty warriors, okay, being able to resist. And then where it says, let Reuben live and not die, okay, it means Reuben was not going to be conquered by those colonists, man. Reuben was going to live, okay, and he was going to continue to have sons, right? So the tribe of Reuben is going to, having sons means your tribe is going to be extended for all time, all right?
And that's also going into that's also going into how basically Reuben didn't sign any treaties. When you go into the history, they didn't sign much treaties really.
Yeah.
Unlike Gad was signing treaties left and right. And the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity. That's why it says the excellency of dignity, and that's also the excellency of dignity, and also the excellency of dignity because Reuben was known. The Seminole Indians were more known to wear the meat trees as well, the meat trees and the fringes, as well as keeping the laws, the land Sabbaths. Which I think that was Gad or even Reuben. Either way, Reuben was wearing the meat trees, and Reuben was actually known to help a lot of Negroes too.
That's right.
They were
escaped slaves would often go to the Seminole Indians, and actually they would actually blend in very well together because Reuben was a very swarthy people. They were a very dark tribe of people. There was also a lot of escaped slaves in the South, and they would go over to Issachar. Actually, they would actually go to Mexico, that's where a lot of so-called black Mexicans, they actually come from, the escaped Judite and Levite slaves that went down south to escape from the slave masters through Texas. So you want to go to the next one?
Well, I got a bit more.
Go ahead.
And the excellency of power. I read that in a history book. It was all in there. So I don't got the book now with me, but when you just do your research too, y'all can go and do your own research on Reuben too, Seminole Indians, to newer members, and you'll see. Verse 4, unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed. Thou defoulest thou it. He went up to my couch. Now I want to read something from this commentary. Here's it's just a Nelson's Compact Series, Compact Bible Commentary by Oral Matcher, Ron Allen, and A.H. Wayne House. It says here in Genesis 49, it says, Jacob began with warm words of praise to Reuben, his firstborn son, for his birth, see 29, 31, and 32. But he ended with a rebuke of Reuben's presumptuous actions with Bilhah. Were you about to get that?
I was going to get the reason why Judah became the head tribe instead of Reuben. But go ahead with that.
If you can get Genesis 35, 22. This is why it said that about Reuben, because once again, just like Esau was the firstborn, but the Lord didn't choose him. Reuben was firstborn, but the Lord ain't choosing.
35, 22?
Yeah.
This is Genesis 35 and 22, and it says, And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in the land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, which was Jacob's concubine, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. Okay, the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. Okay, so that's the account of Reuben actually committing adultery, all right, with his father's concubine, right?
That was the servant of Leah, right?
Yep, she was a servant of Leah.
So that's very that was very weird of Reuben to do that.
Mm-hmm.
By going to his father's bed, Reuben was attempting to solidify his claims as the firstborn son. In fact, he doomed his cause.
Yep.
So he could have did that because he wanted to claim his firstborn son. I don't know why he did that.
Yeah, he was. That was the Lord had to put the spirit on him to do that, to go off like that. But really, I believe that he had Reuben do that because I believe the Lord wanted to place Judah as basically the head tribe, which is I was going to bring out Genesis 49 and 8, where it says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise, and thy hand shall be at the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down to thee, before thee. So Judah was always the head tribe, really, in the spirit, but since Reuben was born first, tradition, ancient tradition was that your firstborn son was the head. He was the leader. He was the one that received the blessings, okay? But the Lord had it in the spirit where Reuben went off, okay? Now, Judah was the one that Jacob put the blessing in front of, okay? So I do believe that the Lord had Reuben do that in the spirit, because Judah was supposed to be the one where, like it says in verse 8, it says, "Thou art he who thy brethren shall praise." Yeah. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Yeah. So basically solidifying Judah as the head tribe, because Reuben was going off. Did you want to go back to?
You get your thing about Judah?
Yeah, I just read that.
Which one is that?
Genesis 49 and 8. I was gonna read Genesis 29 and 33.
What was that about?
She conceived again and bare Simeon.
No, I'm gonna just continue.
Okay,
the
go
next
ahead.
one. Genesis 49 and 4. Actually, Genesis 49 and 5. Also, before that, for more context, this is Deuteronomy 27:20 for edification's sake. Cursed be he that lieth with his father's wife, because he uncovered his father's skirt, and all the people shall say, Amen.
That's right.
And that's why
That's right.
we got cursed.
Don't the scriptures say, "He that committeth adultery lacketh understanding"? Because when you commit adultery, okay, what you're actually doing is you're mixing seed, like you're mixing bodily fluids inside of one vessel, which is why that's such an abominable act, which is punishable by death, right? So he that committeth adultery lacketh understanding. Reuben lacked understanding on what he was doing, okay? So that was a really disgusting thing that he did, right? Going into his father's concubine like that,
Did you get one about, man, I forgot what it was, about Reuben, when he mentions how much he was a man of war?
That was Deuteronomy 33.
But there's one like in First Chronicles, I think.
First Chronicles 5.
Yeah.
Let me get that. First Chronicles 5 and 18, it says, "The sons of Reuben and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men." Valiant men means warriors, okay? Okay, it says, "Of valiant men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, skillful in war, were 44,703 that went out to the war."
Yeah,
So, so the sons of Reuben and Gad and Manasseh, they're all known for being great warriors. Reuben and Gad, especially Gad, that's why if you look at a lot of modern day American military equipment, they actually name it after Gad and Gadite tribes. You have the Apache helicopter, right? That's one of the most famous tools. You have the Comanche. You have the Chippewa. You have the you have all different types of names of Gadite tribes that they use to label their weaponry. Okay, just showing you that Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh, really, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh are mighty warrior tribes within the nation of Israel. Okay, that's why it calls them valiant men.
I'll just get this verse.
Go ahead.
First Chronicles 5 and 1. Now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but for as much as he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given unto the sons of Joseph, the son of Israel, and the genealogy is not to be reckoned after the birthright. For Judah prevailed above his brethren, and out of him came the chief ruler, but the birthright was Joseph's.
That's right.
So really, it says that because Joseph got the second better blessing, but Judah really got the major blessing.
Yep. And that's what I was kind of going into. Judah, thou art he who thy brethren shall praise, because Judah took that head tribe. But remember, Joseph, the tribe of Joseph, which is broken up into Ephraim and Manasseh, Reuben is considered northern tribe. Reuben was supposed to be the head tribe of the northern tribes. That blessing, like you just said, was given to Ephraim. That's why Ephraim is now the head of the northern tribes, okay? So like when you have the split of Israel, you have Ephraim at the head of the northern tribes, you have Judah at the head of the southern tribes, but ultimately it's Judah at the head of all the tribes together.
Verse Genesis 49:5. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. It's gonna explain to you why they were instruments of cruelty in a minute.
Yep.
So you can get that one ready. It says, verse 6, O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. Mine honor be not thou united with them. Why does it say that my soul come not into their secret? That it's going all into Simeon. That's the Dominicans, also known as Shamawan in the Hebrew, I believe, which means afflicted and heard. We gotta get on how they were born.
Right here, Genesis 29:33 says, and she, being Leah, conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also, and she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again and bare a son, and now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name called Levi.
Levi means to be joined together.
Yep.
La-yah in the Hebrew, which goes back to the word lawyer.
Yep. And that's why they got the priesthood, the law. They were the givers of the law. Moses was a Levite, okay, and they were the ones that were responsible for taking care of the temple and taking care of the tabernacle, okay. So they were the ones that joined the Israelites to the Heavenly Father. That was the tribe that was if you notice, when they went into the land, they didn't get an inheritance, because the Lord said, I will be their inheritance, okay. So the Levite tribes were actually a very insignificant and important tribe that was under the old covenant, connected the Heavenly Father to the rest of the tribes. All right.
Levi is the Haitians today.
So-called Haitians, and Simeon is the so-called Dominicans, which are on the same island. Which, if you read 49 again, what does it say about Simeon and Levi? They're brothers. What does it say? Their habitation is together.
Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations, meaning how much they hate each other and fight each other today. They don't get along.
That's right. They fight a lot. That border right there between the Dominican Republic and Haiti is constant conflict going on back and forth between each other. Okay? But also, there's something that they're known for down on that island. Okay? I brought this up right here. It says, both Haiti and the Dominican Republic, witchcraft and voodoo are intertwined with religious and cultural practices, often sparking complex interactions and social dynamics. In Haiti, voodoo is prominent religion with roots in Africa's spiritual traditions, while in the Dominican Republic, it is often viewed as a form of witchcraft, leading to persecution and stigmatization. So they fight each other. They fight all the time. Haiti and they both got voodoo in both of their islands. Okay, but especially the tribe of Levi, which is, the tribe of Loya. They are an extremely spiritually tuned people. So they do get into the dabbling into that spirits and the left-hand side and shit like that, and voodoo and witchcraft and shit like that. That's where all that shit comes from. You go down south to places like New Orleans, right, where there's a lot of Levi down there. New Orleans and Texas, where they do a lot of voodoo. Okay, a lot of witchcraft goes on down there.
It says, and then the Dominican Republic they do their the Dominicans practice their Santeria.
Historical context gives us voodoo was brought to Haiti by enslaved Africans from the Dome Kingdom. It has been a source of resistance and cultural identity for Haitians, even during periods of oppression. So, who were those enslaved Africans? We know those were Israelites. Okay, Deuteronomy 28:68. Those were Israelites coming from the west coast of Africa, and like we said, they went to North America, Central America, and South America. All right.
For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. We gotta get how they did that. I think that's in Genesis 34, 25, 26.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
It says, and it came to pass on the third day when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Diana's brethren, took each man his sword and came up to the city boldly and slew all the males, and they slew Hamor and Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword, and took Diana out of Shechem's house and went out. This is the account of when Diana was basically taken, okay, by these what were they, Canaanites? They were Canaanite tribes.
Ishmaelites, actually.
Oh yeah. And they actually they had sex with Diana. And Simeon and Levi, once again, they went together.
Well,
and
I don't think it was only one man. It wasn't a whole group.
Yeah, it wasn't a group, but they didn't like the fact that she went with them. They didn't like that. They wanted to get revenge for what they did to their sister. And so what did they do? They went and slaughtered what does it say? It says, every man his sword, and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. So they killed everybody. Once again, that shows you the warrior type nature in the Israelites. The fact that, what was it, Simeon and Levi, two guys went and did what? They slaughtered all the males? So you mean to tell me that two Israelites went to wherever these cities were and they killed all the males by themselves? Well, that's because they were the sons of Jacob, okay? They were Israelites. These prolific natures, these warrior, and like we just read about Reuben, these warrior natures, they're prevalent in every single tribe. All tribes have that in them, okay?
So this is why this is Proverbs chapter 1 and 15 and 16. My son, walk not thou in the way with them, refrain thy path from their path, or thy feet from that path, same thing. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. And that's what those two niggas did.
Yep.
Because that's nigga shit.
They were about to start a war, man.
They didn't kill anybody. You know, if they ain't murder somebody, you ain't supposed to murder them. It's just rape.
Yep.
There's a law for that.
That's right. What are they supposed to do? She wasn't betrothed, right? She wasn't married. So they weren't supposed to get killed by the edge of the sword. They were supposed to, what? According to the law, they had to pay the dowry of virgins. What was that, 50 shekels? 50 shekels of silver, right? But Simeon and Levi, what do? Instruments of cruelty, right? Those two are quick. Those two, what are they famous for down there in Haiti, in the Dominican Republic? They're always walking around with machetes and shit. They always fucking doing some shit with a fucking machete. You go down there, you go see some Dominicans fighting each other with machetes and big ass knives and shit. That's what they do down there. But that goes back to that spirit that was in both of their forefathers, you know?
You gotta get, you were about to get hold something.
This is, I was gonna go to Judah. Yeah, go ahead. What do you need?
There only like 15 precepts. You gotta get the one in Deuteronomy 33.
Deuteronomy 33.
And get what you
Yep. Deuteronomy 33:8 says, and of Levi he said, let thy Thummim, and thy Thummim and Urim be with thy Holy One, whom thou didst prove at Massah, and with whom thou didst strive at the waters of Meribah. It says, who said unto thy fathers and to his mother, I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew his own children, for they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. So Levi is being the one that's what is this? This is his blessing, okay? Once again, the Urim and the Thummim, okay, going into that spiritual connection. What is it's like divine light or holy light, Urim and the Thummim. That's like a connection with the Heavenly Father. The tribe of Levi, like I said, is a spiritual people, which is why they get into all that wickedness down there, okay? But they do it on the left-hand side now, because now the tribes are under these curses and in this sinful flesh. So Levi is one of the main tribes that is responsible for getting into that left-hand witchcraft. But it also says, it says, they have observed thy word and kept thy covenant. The Levites were responsible for administering the covenant, okay, administering the law to the Israelites, right? So they were the ones that kept their brethren in line, right? When you had a dispute, what did you have to do? You had to go to the priest. You had to go to a minister of the Lord. When you had a question, you wanted to find an answer to a question, you oftentimes you found a Levite. I think that's in the book of Judges, at the end of the book of Judges, the house of Micah. The house of Micah, when they found that Levite and they took him into the house and said, now I have a Levite for my house to minister unto us, okay? Having a Levite around was a very valuable thing, because now you had someone that had a direct connection to the Heavenly Father, you know? So.
And I heard that the Urim and Thummim too, that was like a crystal ball they can look into.
That's right. I think that's why it's called, I think the actual translation is perfect light, or something like a perfect light, which today goes into like the internet. Like you can go onto your phone. This is kind of like a crystal ball, right? If you go onto your phone, you can look up shit, you can see shit, right? And actually our phones are actually what's called black mirrors. You ever heard of that? Black mirrors, where like they would have glass and it's completely black. If you think about your phone screen, it's just a black screen, and you look into it, right, and you can see things, okay? But Urim and Thummim goes into the connection, right? The ability for you to see the future, be able to do things. And Urim and Thummim goes into divine light, all right?
I got something else.
Go ahead.
Numbers 20:13.
Yep.
This Exodus 28 and verse 30. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of the judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord Yahweh, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. There you go.
Yep. 20 and 13, you said? This is Numbers 20 and 13. It says, this is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. So, yeah, go ahead.
Chapter 8 and 2.
Numbers 8 and 2. This is Numbers chapter 8, verse 2. It says, speak unto Aaron, and say unto him, when thou lightest the lamps, the 7 lamps shall give light over against the candlestick. And Aaron did so. He lighted the lamps, therefore, over against the candlestick, and the Lord commanded Moses. That was 3 right there. And Aaron did so, and he lighted the lamps, therefore, and against the candlestick, and the Lord commanded Mosses. Right? And the right 4 too, it says, and the work And this work of the candlestick was of beaten gold, unto the shaft thereof, unto the flowers thereof was beaten work, according to the pattern which the Lord had showed Moses. So he made the candlestick, going into that menorah. Okay.
Oh, I was about to get something.
Yep.
This is Genesis 30, 29, 32. I believe it was the Levites too that killed certain Levites, other Levites. So you get that account. Genesis 29 and 32. Actually, no.
I just read we were on 35, but that was the birth of Judah. 34 is the one that mentions Levi.
There was an account of when Levi killed some other Levites in the wilderness. Exodus.
When Moses commanded them to kill their brethren, yeah, that was in Exodus. When Moses commanded the Levites to take up sword against their brother, I can get there.
That wasn't not massive. The water of massive account was it?
No. This is Exodus 32. Exodus chapter 32 and verse 20. Okay, this is Exodus 32 and 26. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side, let him come unto me." And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. And he said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Yahweh, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out of the gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. For Moses said, Consecrate yourselves to the day today to the Lord, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. So this is the result of what they did with the golden calf. Remember, Moses went up on Mount Sinai, and the Lord looked down and said, "Look at what your people are doing. I'm going to kill them all." And Moses said, "Nah, don't do it. Don't do it. You know, the other nations are going to say, oh, he just brought them out of Egypt just to destroy them." So Moses went down and commanded the Levites to slay all their brethren that were worshiping that golden calf. Okay, and the Levites they killed with what? Some fucking machetes, man. There's the machetes again. Levi took machetes or the sword, and they slew 3,000 of their own brethren. Okay.
This is in Genesis 49 and 7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them, and that's why they're cursed today. Mm-hmm. Levi and Benjamin, they're cursed today.
They're what's known as hotheads. Okay.
Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. And that's just going out once again into how, even today, how they're divided geographically. They're divided. When you go into Israel, the ancient map of Israel, Simeon's land was in between Judah. In the middle of Simeon was Judah, and then northern kingdom.
Yeah, Judah. Simeon had their inheritance within the borders of the Judite inheritance. So they were surrounded by Judites, which is why if you go down to the Dominican Republic, a lot of them are actually Judah. Judah and Simeon did a lot of mixing, which is why they actually look. If you look at a so-called African American, and look at a Dominican, they actually kind of look the same. I got this right here. Interesting fact. The relationship between Haiti and the Dominican Republic has been marked by conflict and tension, fueled by historical, economic, and social differences. While both nations share the island of Hispaniola, Haiti's persistent poverty and instability, coupled with historic anti-Haitian sentiment, have created a climate of hostility, particularly along the shared border. Here's a more detailed look at the factors contributing to the conflict. Colonial history, of course, Haitian occupation, the Dominican Republic for a period of time, leading to resentment and further complicating of relationships. Okay, that just goes into how, you know, those two brethren are always having conflict between each other. Right?
I would divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel, and that was Levi too. How he was scattered all amongst the tribes. Verse 8, or unless you had something else.
I was going to go back to Deuteronomy 33.
I think we already got that one.
Yeah.
I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Now this is going to verse 8 here. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his fowl unto the vine, and his ass his coats unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of the grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk.
I can get this right here. Genesis 29 and 35. And she conceived again, talking about Leah again, and bare a son. And she said, Now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. So that was her last son. Okay. She said, therefore, now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. Okay, Judah or Yahweh means God be praised, or praise God. Okay, so when she gave birth to Judah, what did she say? She said, thank God, or God be praised. That's why Judah's name means God be praised, or I will give thanks to God. Okay,
Yeah,
Yahweh.
I will give thanks.
Yeah, Yahweh Da, and Da is short for Tawada. So it's Yahweh Tawada. Okay, so God be praised. And then like that, you just read Genesis 49.
Yeah.
Okay. And the significance of that, if you go to the book of Hebrews,
You still need the one in 33.
Deuteronomy 33, yeah. Blessing for Judah. Deuteronomy 33 and 7. And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, Hear the Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou in help to him from his enemies. And Judah has been in significant oppression of their enemies. But however, there's always been a spirit on Judah of we shall overcome, the Lord is going to help us. The Lord is on our side. We know that the Heavenly Father is with us. Even from the time of the plantation days, Judah has always been that tribe that was extremely optimistic about their situation, okay? Which is why Judah is one of the main tribes that really is going off right now in that Christianity, because there's, once again, they're extremely spiritual people, and they have that connection, right? What was that verse? A zeal of the Most High, but not according to knowledge. Judah has an extreme zeal of the Most High, right? But not according to knowledge for the most part, right?
First Chronicles 5 and 2. I have that. First Chronicles. I gotta find it though.
Let me get this. Hebrews 7 and 14. This is Hebrews 7 and 14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah. So out of that tribe came Yahushai. It says, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. And the reason why that is significant, because Moses gave the priesthood to the Levites, okay? But our high priest, our ultimate high priest, is Yahushai, right? Yahushai is the ultimate high priest, but yet he came out of the tribe of Judah, which is why they told you Moses didn't say anything about Judah being the tribe of the priests, or the priesthood. So it just shows you Yahushai, okay, he usurps all of that, right? He's above all of that, okay? And he came out of Judah, which is the head tribe. Genesis 49, which I just read, Judah became the head tribe.
Binding his fowl unto the bind, and his ass is cool unto the choice bind. It reminds me of Yahushua when he rode on a donkey. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet.
Yep.
Basically going into how Judah was going to remain the head tribe until Shiloh come. That's Yahushua. Shiloh means peace. That's also in Numbers 23. I'm going to get that. Or if you can get that, I'll just get it. Yeah, I'll get it. Numbers 25 or 24. I mean, this is verse. I gotta find it. Oh, 9. He lay down as a lion, and as a great lion, who shall stir him up? Blessed is he that blesseth thee, and cursed is he that curseth thee.
And what's the symbol of the tribe of Judah? Is the lion. Okay, that's why Yahushua is known as the lion of the tribe of Judah. Okay, and the lion is what? The lion, the actual animal of the lion, is known as the king of the jungle. Where it says he couched down, where it says he couched, he laid down as a lion and as a great lion. Okay, that laying down goes into Judah no longer being in that dominant estate. Judah has been laid down for a long time, docile, right? And actually, El Apostle Tahar says it all the time. When Judah decides to revolt, when Judah decides to stand up, okay, the rest of the tribes are going to follow. I don't know if you saw yesterday, there's this whole big old thing going down in LA last night where there was a bunch of Issacharites protesting in the streets and about all these deportations going on, and a bunch of Issachar, right, they were in the streets, they were throwing bottle rockets and Molotov cocktails and whatnot. And what it really was, it was a big thing, but it was quelled and quenched quite quickly last night. However, I was listening to the commentator, and who was the guy who was speaking on it, and he said, well, if that was black people, he said, if that was black people, they would have shot them all dead. Well, there's truth to that, right? There's truth to that. But the reason for that is because Esau knows that Judah has the ability to awaken that spirit in the rest of the tribes. So Issachar, protesting in the street, Manasseh protesting in the street, Gadites protesting in the street. I don't know if you saw a couple months ago, they had in New York a bunch of those Gadites riding their horses down the streets of New York saying that we want our land back and all that type of stuff. That's all a sign of the time and the spirit coming back into the tribes. But there is one tribe in particular that eventually the Lord, like it says right here, he laid down as a lion and as a great lion, who shall stir him up? Okay, who's gonna stir up the tribe of Judah? Okay, when the tribe of Judah gets stirred up and decides to actually take action, okay, and kind of revolt against Esau, then you're gonna see that ancient spirit in the rest of the tribes awaken to the max, right? And that's when you're gonna see, I believe, a lot of that Jacob's trouble being fulfilled. Okay,
I have a bit more.
go ahead.
Numbers 23 and verse 23. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time it shall be said to Jacob and of Israel, what has God wrought? Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion and lift up himself as a young lion. Going into how this is describing Judah and Israel as a collective, how they're both lions. So
Yep.
you know, we think of a lion, we think of Judah, but the lions also you Israelites, you
Yep.
Watermalites,
Zebulonites.
Zebulonites, and lift up himself as a young lion. He shall not lie down until he eats of the prey and drink the blood of the slain. So when Judah gets roused up, and then all the other tribes follow suit, they ain't gonna chill out till there's blood. You're gonna have blood when this happens. I actually have something else on that.
Go ahead.
Numbers 24 and 17. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob. It mentioned right there in Genesis 49, verse 8. Thy father's children shall bow down. And over here in Numbers 24:17, it mentions Judah as a star. A star shall come out of Jacob. Yahweh Shai is known as the morning star. It reminds me of Joseph when his brothers bowed down to him. But you notice they were all stars, so you other tribes, you're stars too, but it's just Judah has the bigger star, the bigger lion. It says, shall smite the scepter shall rise out of Judah. The scepter once again mentioned in Genesis 49:10. Here in Numbers 24:17, going into the same parable. And smite the corners of Moab and destroy all the children of Sheth. This is also going into Yahweh Shai as a whole here. It says he washed his garments in wine. That reminds me of Isaiah 40. What's that one?
His garments in Isaiah 63.
Isaiah 63 right there.
Yep.
He washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of the grapes.
Yep.
I want to mention something else. It says in 8, thy hand shall be the neck of thine enemies. That's going into how Judah's in every single office here in America, in the political sphere, the athletics, the celebrity atmosphere, stratosphere, all those offices, Judah's in the neck of that. That's also his brethren shall praise him. That's going into how Judah's very talented. Judah is blessed with a bit more of every single thing, really.
Yep. Each tribe has their thing that they're great at. Okay, they have their blessing. Judah is kind of like a jack of all trades. You know, like they're good at everything, right? All the tribes are really good at everything, but since Judah has taken that head tribe, because the Lord came out of that tribe, Judah is known as kind of like the standard bearer, you know.
Oh, you had something on that still, Judah?
No, I was gonna go on to Dan.
I gotta get Malachi here.
Go ahead.
I mean, Michael. Micah chapter 5, verse 8. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. Once again, just going into the race wars, what the brother mentioned, going back to the 60s, 70s, you had Judah starting to rouse them up with the Black Panthers and
They had the Brown Berets at that time, which were more Hispanic people group. And, you know, that race war, I did a video on that. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I did a video on that. That race war is a prophetic, biblical, it's a prophecy. It's gonna come, okay? Most people, you ask them today, like, you know, do you want a race war? If people ask me, do you want a race war? I'll say, hell yeah, I want a race war, because the Bible says, the prophecies say that that's going to happen, right? And actually, I believe that even though you're gonna have inter-tribes fighting, I believe most of the race war is gonna be between the tribes and Esau, okay? I believe that Issachar, Manasseh, Gad, I believe they're all gonna kind of come together at that time to kind of go against Esau, because we all know, at this point in 2025, the tribes understand who their common enemy is, okay? Even if they're not into the truth, they understand who their common enemy is, right? So,
11, and his clothes, 12, his eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. That wine goes into the fury and wrath that Yahweh Shah is going to have. That's why it says his eyes was red, as a fury of fire. That's going into Yahweh Shah is meditating the destruction. He's not sipping wine in the heavens. He's thinking about that red wine is referring to the destruction he wants to bring in on America. This is Psalm 106. Actually, I can't find it. It's one scripture in Psalms where it mentions the Lord is holding a cup of wrath.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to bring this up. This is Matthew 26 and 29, where it says, "But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And Yahushua, this is when he drank that last cup of wine before he got put to death, all right? And he was telling his disciples he's not going to drink no more wine, which, by the way, tells you that we're going to have actual bodies in the kingdom, okay? We're going to be able to eat and drink, because we're going to be able to drink wine, okay, with Yahushua. He says, I'm not going to drink any more wine until I get the kingdom established on earth. So for 2,000 years, over 2,000 years, Yahushua hasn't had a sip of wine, okay? He's waiting, okay, until the day that he comes back, right? But when you look at him, the description in Revelation, the 1st chapter, starting about the 13th verse, it tells you that his eyes were red as a flame of fire, okay? And, you know, the scriptures say that, yeah, while he was on earth, his eyes were red with wine, because what did they call him? They called him, let me get that. This is,
And Judah, by the way, he was when Joseph got betrayed by his brothers, Judah was the one that said, no, let's not put him in let's not, I forgot what it was, man, but Judah was the one that was trying to tell his brothers not to sell him.
Judah was the one that was sticking up for Joseph, man. It was Simeon. Who was that? That was Simeon. It was Simeon, Reuben, I believe it was Levi, and who else was that? It might have been Ephraim, that were jealous of Joseph because of that coat that his father gave him, and they knew that Joseph was the father's favorite. Joseph was he was Jacob's favorite, and they hated him for it. So what do? They pretended to kill him. They were actually gonna kill him. All right, but I believe it was it was Judah that said don't kill him, right? And then what did? They sold him to some Ishmaelites, right? Who eventually sold him to the Egyptians. All right, and that's the beginning of the story of the setup of how the Israelites got into Egypt in the first place. All right. wanted to bring out. This is Matthew 11 and 19. Go to Matthew chapter 11, verse 19. It says, "The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man gluttonous and a wine bibber, a friend of publicans and sinners, but wisdom is justified of her children." They called Yahushua a wine bibber, which means like someone who drinks too much wine. They're always drinking wine, right? So Yahushua drank a lot of wine, okay, but he wasn't a wine bibber, okay? Yahushua never was a drunkard, right? Let's see what that definition of that word was. Because I've actually never looked into the definition of that word. Oinapates, a wine bibber, given to wine, a wino. Yeah, they were basically accusing him of being a drunkard, okay? A derivative of the alternative of a tippler. A tippler, like someone's tipsy all the time, yeah. So that's what that word means. So when Yahushua said in Matthew 26, "I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vine until I drink it new with you," he was basically prophesying that he's not going to drink wine in the heavens with him. Okay? When he comes back, that's when he's going to drink that wine with us. All right? Did you want to go to Dan?
I got this left here.
Go ahead.
And the commentary, this commentary, it says, reads here, "Judah shall praise." This verse is a wordplay on the meaning of Judah's name. Let God be thanked. Thank God. Jacob's praise for Judah was surpassed only by his praise for Joseph. Verse 22 to 26. And chapter 48. Judah rose to the leadership of the 12 sons of Jacob, passed over Reuben, Simeon, and Levi. The lion is an ancient royal symbol. Yahushua had 2 lions when he made his throne. That was spiritual. The scepter is an ornament, staff, or rod. This is a symbol of royal authority. A lawgiver is the one who issues statutes. Wine recalls the color of blood. The color of his eyes and teeth speak of that of vitality and victory. The language of this passage expresses the mystery and wonder surrounding this common one, Shiloh. I got that account of Joseph, and if you want me to get that.
Go ahead.
Genesis 48 and 21. And Reuben, that says in verse 20, "Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit, and we will say some evil beast devoured him, and we shall see what become of his dreams." And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, "Let us not kill him." And Reuben said unto them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him of their hands, to deliver him into his father again." And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And there they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites. So they were having a lunch break. And behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, "What profit is it?" Now this is Judah. "What profit is it, if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, and our flesh and his brethren were content." So actually, Reuben was trying to help Joseph too.
Yeah.
So that was spiritual, but once again, Judah got the blessing. That was all I had on that.
We can actually go to the birth of Dan. Which, by the way, Dan, the tribe of Dan, if you notice in Revelation, the 7th chapter, when it mentions the 144,000, the tribe of Dan is not mentioned. Okay, the scriptures don't tell you what happened to that tribe. We don't know what happened to that tribe. Okay, I imagine, this is just me personally. I believe that Dan may have done something. If you remember at the end of the book of Judges, Benjamin raped that woman. Those sons of Belial, they raped that concubine, and Benjamin was almost wiped out as a result of that. I believe that it could have been that Dan may have done something that resulted in their sons being wiped out, which that would ultimately result in them having to be in the reincarnation under other tribes. But I don't know. I can't make that doctrine. You know, I don't know we don't know what happened to the tribe of Dan. We'll find out in the kingdom. But Genesis 30:1 is the beginning of.
Samson was from the get.
That's what I was about to bring out. Yeah, I was about to bring that out too. But I'll bring out his birth first. Genesis 30:1. It says.
Yeah, Dan's an unknown character.
Yeah, we don't know what happened to him. Where'd he go? Where you at?
You know that unlockable character?
Yeah, the dark. You ain't see him yet. You know, you don't got enough experience points to unlock that one. Genesis 30:1, it says, and when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And that's an ancient custom as well. Women would actually, if they couldn't have children, they would actually have their servants be basically like surrogates, okay? To be surrogates that would bear children for them, all right? Can you imagine that today, a nigga woman telling her husband, oh, go pop that woman over there, and she'll have children, and I'll consider that child mine. That would never happen today, because this whole place is out of order and backwards, all right? It says, and she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, and I may, go ahead.
You skipped Deuteronomy.
33? I think I read that. Let me see. We'll get it again. Deuteronomy 33. I think it was 7. Yeah, I think I read this. But it says, Deuteronomy 33:7, it says, and this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, hear the Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people, and let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou in help unto him from his enemies. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, that going into Judah has always been a tribe that has been optimistic about their situation, even when they were in hardcore slavery. Right? They've always been optimistic, singing praises. I believe if you listen to a lot of those Negro spirituals from the slave times, where they always singing about River Jordan, a savior coming, swing low, sweet chariot, right? Swing low, sweet chariot is one of the most famous Negro spirituals of the time. Let's talk about the deliverance in Matthew chapter 24. Okay, swing low, sweet chariot.
If I may add some commentary on how Joseph got sold, it was really balanced when you look at it, because Joseph wouldn't have gotten that even just as good blessing as Judah if it wasn't for that. For Judah to betray him, that was balanced.
Yep.
And Reuben was being naturally the older son. He was looking out for Joseph. You know, he put him in that hole to hide him, and not knowing his brother was new, and then came back after his brother sold him to see if he was still there. You notice Judah, being the younger son, ahead of his time, he probably did that so his brothers wouldn't kill him, because Simeon and Levi, once again, they were there. So it was just showing you spiritually how Judah was out of all them, he was the only one that was up to par to be the leader.
Yeah.
That was it.
Okay, so we'll go to Genesis 30 and 5, where it says, "And Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son, and Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called his name Dan." All right, and that's the tribe of Dan. Okay, we don't have them on the sign like I just mentioned, but the most famous Danite in the Bible was Samson. Okay, that's I'll get that. Judges chapter 13 and verse 2, and it says, "And there was a certain man of Zohar of the family of the Danites, whose name was Mona, and his wife was barren and bare not." Then you get the story of the angel coming and telling her that she was going to bear a Nazarite, okay? And she was going to come and bear a Nazarite, okay? And they were to not cut his hair because he was a Nazarite from the womb, all right? Verse 5 says, "For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for a child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines." Samson was one of the judges. He was one of the saviors that was sent to Israelites after, because Israelites went off. They went into the slavery for a certain period of time, and the Lord would send them a judge, a savior to bring them out. Okay, Samson was one of those. All right. Now we'll go to get that in Nehemiah chapter 9. Nehemiah chapter 9 and 27 says, "Therefore thou deliverest them into the hand of their enemies who vexed them, and in the time of their trouble, when they cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and according to thy manifold mercies, thou gavest them saviors," right? Who saved them out of the hand of their enemies. And Samson was sent to save the Israelites out of the hand of the Philistines, right?
Does it ever mention why they were
under captivity in the Philistines?
No, the Dan once again.
It does. Yeah, I've looked, and the scriptures really don't say what happened. They kind of just fall off the map. They just kind of aren't mentioned it. That's why I speculate.
Because it mentions in Judges 18 here a Danite migration. In Judges 18.
Yeah. Go ahead, read that.
So this is when they took the Levite, basically. Dan wanted to take this Levite. That verse says in verse 8, "And they came unto their brethren at Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brethren said unto them, What say ye? And they said, Arise, that we may go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And are ye still? Be not slothful to go and to enter to possess the land. When ye go, ye shall come unto a people secure into a large land, for God hath given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. And there went from thence of the family of the Danites out of Zorah and out of the Eshtaol 600 men appointed with weapons of war." You read in Judges about where Samson was from?
Yep.
What was the land he was from?
The Judges.
When he was born?
Judges
you just
13. Yeah, Judges 13. It says, "And there was a man, Zorah.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a certain man of Zorah, the family of the Danites, whose name was Mona, and his wife was barren, and she bare not."
And so these are where these Danites are coming from, the same place there.
Mm-hmm.
"And they went up and pitched in Kiriath Jearim in Judah, wherefore they called that place Menahem Dan unto this day. Behold, it is behind Kiriath Jearim. And they passed thence unto Mount Ephraim, and came unto the house of Micah. Then answered the 5 men that went to spy out the country of Laish, and said unto their brethren, Do ye know that there is in these houses an ephod and a teraphim, and a graven image and a molten image? Now therefore consider what ye have to do. And they turned thitherward and came to the house of the young man, the Levites, even unto the house of Micah, and saluted him." I'm going to try to skip down. Google, why is Dan not mentioned in Revelation?
Why is Dan not mentioned in Revelation 7? It says the tribe of Dan is missing from the list of tribes in Revelation 7, specifically verses 5 through 8, for several possible reasons, all related to the tribe's history of idolatry and apostasy. The tribe of Dan in the book of Judges is known for setting up an idol. Yep, they did do that. For setting up an idol and engaging in idolatry, leading the northern tribes into similar practices. The historical tendency towards idolatry could be seen as a reason for their exclusion from the sealed 144,000 in Revelation.
It mentions that idolatry here in Judges 18. I'm going to skip to the last two verses, 30. And the children of Dan set up the graven image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. And they set them up Micah's graven image, which he made all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. So that's probably why.
Yeah, like I said, I believe they could have done something that would have excluded them from being counted in the tribes. You know, Benjamin did that terrible act of raping that woman, and they were almost taken out. You know, but idolatry is one of the worst crimes you could commit, right? The first commandment is, "Thou shalt have no other God before me." And Dan was responsible for leading, because remember, what were the northern tribes known for? The northern tribes were known for committing idolatry. Okay, that's why they went into the Assyrian captivity, and it was Dan that really kind of headed that off. It really led them into, if you go into what is that, First Kings, where Jeroboam led the 10 tribes that he was given. Okay, and right after Jeroboam took control of that, the northern tribes were completely idolatrous, which is why the list of the kings of the northern tribes, none of them were in right standing with the Lord. Okay, but it was the tribe of Dan that was really setting up those idolatrous idols in their land. You know,
this is Genesis 49 and 16. Did you read it in Deuteronomy 33?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that right now.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Going back to Samson there. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. Going into how Samson fucked the Philistines up.
Let me get this. Deuteronomy 33 and 22 says, and of Dan, it says, and of Dan, he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. Okay? He shall leap from Bashan. Okay, that's all it says. That's a very short verse about Dan. He shall leap from Bashan. Let me get that word. Bashan.
Was that this location where Samson was born? Because that would make a lot of sense.
In Zohar. Zohar.
I think Bashan is a northern tribe.
Yeah. It says Bashan, fruitful, the district east of Jordan. So the district east of Jordan, known for its fertility, which was given to the half tribe of Manasseh.
I want to see where it's close located on the map.
Yeah, let me see. I got it. B-A-S-H. Yeah, that's basically the area of Gilead. You know where the tribe Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben were before they crossed over Jordan? Yeah, that's where Bashan is. Actually, I got this map in the background too. Right here. Bashan is a region. Basically where East Manasseh was.
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah. So if you look at the map, it's basically north of Ammon, north of Moab, where Gilead, where Reuben, Gad, and East Manasseh were. That's where the tribe of Dan was. Now Dan did actually get an inheritance in the land. Dan actually had the inheritance. Basically, they were west of Jerusalem, north of Judah. Okay.
And that can go into how they migrated too. Once again.
Yeah.
How they,
Yeah. Yeah, I got it right here. So Dan's territory is right here, right next to Ephraim, north of Judah.
That would be Bashan.
Yeah, so Bashan is over here. So they migrated over. They moved over. So, because I do remember Dan did get an inheritance in the land. But since they're not mentioned in Revelation chapter 7, we don't know what the Lord is going to do with that tribe. All right? So we can only speculate. Did you want to go to Naphtali?
I got them up here on the commentary.
Go ahead.
Now, in the commentary here it says, Dan's name is related to the word meaning judge, abided by the path that possibly means that some of Dan's descendants would abandon their faith in the Lord. Yet, the godly can still expect salvation from the Lord. What was the verse you got in Deuteronomy?
Deuteronomy 33 and 22.
That was about Dan.
Yep.
Let
So
me
he
get that
shall
on.
leap from Bashan.
In the commentary, Deuteronomy 33:22 aligns what may refer to the small size of the tribe of Dan. That would make sense, because there was a very small inheritance they got.
Yep.
Though Dan's land inheritance was close to Judah by the coastal plains, the tribe would not be able to keep their inheritance because of the hostility of the Philistines. Therefore, the Danites would one day migrate to the region of Bashan, south of Mount Hermon, Judges 18. So that's literally where they migrated.
Yep.
Look at that.
Right over right there by Gilead, right north of Gad, right over there mixed in with Manasseh. Yeah, it says, Dan is a lion's whelp, he shall leap from Bashan. Okay? Going into migration.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. Oh, and remember it mentions that they weren't able to remove the Philistines. So they had to abide at the base of the mountain. I'm not sure where that's mentioned. I'm gonna have to find that. Let's see. These are the sons of Dan after their families of Shuma, the family of the Shuamites. These are the families of Dan after their families. Amiel, the son of Gimiel. I'm trying to find that specific verse. This is the inheritance of the tribe of Dan according to their families and their villages. Joshua chapter 19. And the coasts of the children of Dan went out too little for them, therefore were too little for them. Yeah, it says it right here. Joshua 19 and 47. And the coasts of the children of Dan went out too little for them, therefore the children of Dan went up to fight against Lashem and took it and smote it with the edge of the sword and possessed it and dwelt therein, and Lashem and called it Lashem, Dan, after the name of Dan their father. Where's Lashem? I'm pretty sure that's the area north of Judah.
Probably where the map just told.
Yeah, I think that's where it's at. But yeah, Dan, they obviously migrated over across Jordan.
Take Zebulon. You want to get Zebulon now?
I think next is Naphtali. Deuteronomy, Genesis 30:7 says, and Bilhah,
No,
Rachel's maid, or where you at?
I'm going off Genesis 49.
Okay, go ahead, read that one.
But
Okay.
you're going off, that one's
Yeah,
going
this is
off
Genesis 30. Zebulon is
the chronological
yeah.
verse.
Let me get Zebulon.
But that is interesting because I do want to. They should. It would be good to tell them the list of
Yeah. So then, after Dan was born, then the next son to be born was Naphtali. It says, and Rachel said, with great wrestlings.
We can just do Naphtali.
Okay. Yeah. Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali.
Naphtali is not Natalia in the Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
It means he wrestles.
Yeah.
Because Leah there was wrestling with her sister. So Leah decided to name her son there. He naturally wrestled him.
Let me get the blessing from Naphtali.
I'll get this one first.
Go ahead.
In Genesis 49:21, Naphtali is a hind let loose. Going into how Naphtali, that's Argentina to the Argentinians to Chileans today, also known as the Incas. When you go into them, they love bull riding, so that's why they're a hind let loose. They like being out in the wilderness, in the fields. Even today, a lot of Naphtalites, they like to crop. They're very good farmers. Some of the best farmers. It's a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. He giveth goodly words, just going into how friendly those people are. That tribe is. You can get the Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
That one was short.
Naphtali in Deuteronomy 33:23, and it says, and of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. Deuteronomy 34:2 says, in Naphtali, in all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and the land of Judah, and the utmost of the sea. So this is going into where he was blessed with his inheritance.
What verse was that?
Deuteronomy 34:2, but Deuteronomy 33:23 says, and of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. So Naphtali is full of the blessing of the Lord. Okay.
Possess the west and the south.
Yep. That's his inheritance, which is got on the map.
We're going into how the geographical location where they were positioned.
Yep. That's actually the western hemisphere, and the south. What is Naphtali? The Argentinians or the Chileans, all the way down south, which is South America. Okay, so you go all the way down there, south of Colombia, south of
You see that map?
because their inheritance was in the north, in the land. So we'll go to the world map and we'll look at actually South America. Yeah, you have Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and Peru. Okay,
that's like the southern Americas,
South America,
and then it's like
yep.
in the west part of that.
Yep. So yeah, that's going into a future prophecy of how the northern tribes will be over here, right? It doesn't really say much about Naphtali, but it gives you a location.
Can you read that again?
Yep. Top. Deuteronomy 33 and 23. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south.
It doesn't say much, but not about Naphtali, but it means wrestles too. That was going into how much they were fighting with the Spaniards as well.
Yeah.
Even to this day, Naphtali is very good at MMA, mixed martial arts.
You got a lot of those. You got a lot of Naphtali in Brazil too. And what is Brazil known for? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's a form of grappling, wrestling. Okay, Naphtali is actually known for, being really good at. I think there was this one. Who was this one guy? He was just a champion in the UFC. I believe he was Naphtali, but he was from Brazil. I forget his name. But he was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. Okay.
What was the name? We got the name. Where did you get that from?
Which name?
Where is it? Naphtali was born.
Go back to Genesis 30 and 8. It says, and Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister. Okay, she's basically saying she's competing. Rachel was competing with Leah, right? Because she wasn't having kids. Leah was having kids, so she was competing to see who could have more sons for Jacob. Right?
That was Rachel's first son.
Rachel's first son was Dan,
okay.
through her concubine Bilhah. But remember, Rachel only had one son, and then she died. That was Benjamin, which was the last one. Okay, well, that actually came out of her.
And it's interesting that Dan was born off one of the servant woman because it represents how he was later on disappeared.
Yeah.
Was he the only one born of the servant woman, or before him?
Yeah, Dan was the first son of Bilhah.
But like the other tribes, were they born of Leah?
Yeah. So you had Reuben, Levi, Simeon, and Judah came out of Leah.
Yeah, so Dan was the first to be. I think he was the only one to be born of the servant woman. I think.
Yeah, and Rachel said with great wrestlings. Rachel and Bilhah, Rachel's maid. Bilhah gave birth to Naphtali also. So Naphtali and Dan came out of Bilhah.
Oh shit.
Yep. And then Issachar came out of Zilpah. So basically what's going on here is Rachel and Leah are competing with each other to see who can give Jacob more sons. Okay? And they're using their maids to count for their sons as well. Okay? And it says when Leah saw that she had left bearing, I mean she's not having no more sons, but she don't want to fall behind, right? She don't want to give Rachel an opportunity to become the favorite wife because she's having more sons through her maid. It says, then Leah saw that she had left bearing and took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, a troop cometh.
Are you doing Gad next?
Yeah, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad, which Gad's name means troop. And that's actually a name that's in the Hebrew word Armageddon, Armageddon. Arma meaning armies, Gad or Gad, Armagad meaning troop or soldiers. Okay. And she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. That's actually going in Asher, but we'll stay on Gad. I actually was going to bring up Gad's blessing.
I'll get this one,
Go ahead.
Genesis first. Genesis 49 and... Let me find it. 19. Again, the troops shall overcome him. That's what it said in Genesis when she was born. He was born.
It says, Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad.
Going into how Gad, let's just get this verse. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but so it's a troop shall come. It was an omen. She was seeing a troop coming, going into how much of a troop Gad would be, and also into how the Europeans was going to come in, defeat Gad later on in this verse. A troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. That still hasn't happened yet. Gad overcoming.
It will, though. It will happen when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay?
Gad was actually one of the first tribes to learn and master every single weapon. The crossbow, the gun, the tomahawk, the spear, and the sword, and all of that.
Like I said, Gad is known for his warrior spirit and being soldiers, right? Being very skillful with weapons.
The war paint as well, he would put.
Yep.
That's where the Navy gets that from today.
Yep. And I want to read his blessing, because his blessing is also an omen. In Deuteronomy 33 and 20, it says, and of Gad he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and he teareth the arm and the crown of the head, going into scalping. What were the Native Americans known for? When Esau came over here, Gad was whooping their ass, and Gad was famous for taking dead Edomites and scalping. Scalping is when you cut the top of their head off, like the skin, right? And you leave nothing but the exposed skull. That's what scalping is, and that's literally what Gad was known for. It says he teareth the arm and the crown of the head. Okay, going into scalping. All right, that's Deuteronomy 33 and 20.
It says here, Moses compared Gad's military role to the power of a ravenous lion, and predicted that this tribe would join the others in the conquest of Canaan. Get Joshua 22, 1 to 6.
Joshua 22, 1 to 6. It says, then Joshua called the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, which those are the tribes that were in where? Gilead, across Jordan, okay? And said unto them, ye have kept all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed my voice, and all that I commanded you. Ye have not left your brethren these many days unto this day, but have kept the charge of the commandment of the Lord. And now the Lord your power hath given rest unto you, unto your brethren, as he promised them. Therefore now return ye and get you unto your tents. Because remember, when they were coming into the land of Israel, before they crossed Jordan, Gad, Reuben said that they wanted to stay in that land. Because it was nice. They saw that it was good for cattle. It was green, and they wanted to leave their children and their women there. And they said that we'll go with you over Jordan to fight with you, but we want to return to this land. Okay, that was called Gilead. It says, and get you unto your tents and unto the land of your possession, which Moses the servant of the Lord gave you. And on the other side Jordan, because they didn't cross Jordan with the rest of the tribes. It says, but take diligent heed to do the commandment and the law which Moses, the servant of the Lord, charged you, to love the Lord your God, and to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments, and to cleave unto him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went unto their tents. So that goes into where the land location of, this is why you see on the map, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh, the half tribe of Manasseh, okay, they're on the other side of Jordan. basically not in Israel proper. They're in a region of that land called Gilead. All right. So let me go. I actually pulled something up. I'm about to read this. I typed in Google military weapons named after Native American tribes. It says the U.S. military, particularly the Army, has a long-standing tradition of naming helicopters after Native American tribes, going into that weaponry, right? Yeah, being a troop. It says this practice began in the 1940s before the Air Force was separated from the Army. Examples include the AH-64 Apache, the CH-47 Chinook, and the AH-56 Cheyenne. The helicopters are the Apache, the Black Hawk, the Chinook, the Cheyenne, the Lakota, the Comanche, and the Kiowa. So those are weapons of the armies, okay? Those are their powerful military weaponry that they use to conquer other nations, and yet they name them after Israelite tribe. They name them after Israelites, okay? Going into that Omen Nomen, like the Ox said, right?
Yeah, the Apache were known to be some of the toughest,
fiercest warriors, man.
Gadite Native Indian tribe.
Yep. Even right now, the county that we're in is named Ottawa County. That's a Gadite tribe right there. Okay.
Did you get the one in Numbers? That one's very deep.
This is Numbers. Which one did you want?
Through 33.
Where's 33? 32 and 33?
The blessing.
Okay. Deuteronomy 33.
Oh.
Yeah. Deuteronomy 33, yep, that's one. It says, and of Gad, he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. Yeah, going into scalping.
And it says, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad, going into how large their land was.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty significant piece of land.
Massive.
And especially here today with America.
Yep.
It's really from the border of Mexico all the way up to the end of Alaska, Canada up there.
Yep, Canada was all Gadites up there. All of that. Gad's territory was huge. Okay? All this land we're in right now, this whole Babylon the Great, United States of America, that was Gadites for the most part. You had Issacharites that were up here. They had a large portion as well from the west side of the Mississippi, okay, from Mexico all the way up to even Washington and Montana is where Issacharites were at. And you had Gadites, Issacharites that were mixing and mingling at that time, all the way up into Canada, okay? But like it said, how many, I actually looked this number up. It was something like 500 million Native American people were killed as a result. And look it up again. How many Native American tribes, how many Native Americans let me see.
And it's funny because I'm just reading it now, going back to the dude who raped Dinah, Simeon and Levi's daughters, he actually ended up getting circumcised just so that he can win her father's approval, Jacob's approval. And so then they still murdered that man. Just found that kind of funny. Here you go, the man decides to circumcise himself afterwards, and it said he really loved her, and they still killed him.
So it's saying pre-Columbian population estimates suggest that the population of the Americas was between 50 and 60 million, which is a lie, of course, because we know that Esau is a liar. Okay, he wants to make what he did less significant, even though let's say it was 60 million people, 60 million Gadites and Issacharites. It's still, you wipe them out to what? What are there's like 2 million now? There's like 2 million Native Americans in the United States as of this point. But however, it says, however, the arrival of Europeans brought devastating consequences. Okay, what is that? Genesis 49, a troop shall overcome him. Okay, it says the arrival of Europeans brought devastating consequences for Native Americans, leading to significant population decline due to various factors, mostly disease. Okay, disease. Esau brought that smallpox and other diseases, and they purposefully poisoned Gad. All right. European diseases like smallpox, measles, influenza, to which Native Americans had no prior immunity, caused widespread epidemics and high mortality rates. Warfare and violence, conflicts with European settlers, Esau Edomites, resulted in casualties and displacement. Yeah, they came in here with a sword and a gun, and they started killing a bunch of Native Americans. If you ever seen that show, Elder Malcolm talks about it, called not Resident Evil. What's the name of that show about Esau coming in and taking all the land? Prime Evil. If you watch that show, it goes into Esau coming into the United States and killing a bunch of Gadites. And Esau would do abominable things, man. He would draw out the warriors, which were called the Braves. Okay, they had sports teams named the Braves. Okay, the Braves were the soldiers of the Gadite tribes. They would lure the Braves out to war, and they would come back around, and Esau would go into their villages and kill and rape all their women and children. Okay, so that's the thing. That's the kind of thing Esau was doing. Okay, if you watch that show, Prime Evil, that's what that show is about.
And also, Gad was able to hunt deer for days.
Yep.
And it's rumored how he would be able to sneak in these Edomites' camps while they're sleeping.
Yep.
And take all their guns and horses.
That's right. You ever seen that movie? What was that one with Leonardo DiCaprio and that bear? Revenant. I think it's called Revenant. It shows you what they would do to the Native American women. Do you want to go to?
I got something else.
Go ahead.
Numbers 24 and 5. Oh, how goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. Going into how Gad's teepees he would make. It would be very beautiful. The Lord thought Gad's tents were beautiful.
And what were the Israelites known for? Dwelling in tents, right?
Yeah, Jacob dwelt in tents outside of Shittim. And then the Lord dwelt in a tent, as in the Ark, in the covenant.
Yep, in a tabernacle, as a tent. It was a big ass tent, really. And what's the Feast of Tabernacles, right? That's when what would they do? They would dwell in tents, right? And Gad, Issachar, all the way down to South America, Naphtali and Asher, what do? They lived in teepees and wigwams and tents and mud huts and stuff like that. So
Wigwams.
yeah, wigwams.
We can stop there.
Okay, yeah, we can stop there. We'll continue at we're on verse 30, and next one is Asher.
How many tribes we got here?
There's Asher, then there's
I know Issachar.
Issachar is a little later. That's Asher. Then there's Issachar is starting at verse 14 when she bought the mandrakes. The mandrakes. Issachar came as a result of those mandrakes. Yep, Issachar comes in verse 18, and then after Issachar is Zebulun, which I did a video last week on Zebulun. Then after Zebulun is Joseph.
Benjamin.
Yep, then
yeah,
Benjamin.
Benjamin in that chapter. He's
Yep.
more later.
Yep.
So we got like 5 more tribes left. We're into 6. Not too bad.
Yep.
Already 2 hours in, so that's good.
Yeah.
So
hopefully this was edifying, Lord will.
all praise to Yahweh Ba'ashem El Shai.
Yep.
The elders, you apostles, preaching, teaching the truth
Yep.
with sincerity. Shalom.
Shalom.
Abar Abba.
Abba Ball.